Lacey Everett here with Minds in Motion. We are now on Spotify where you can follow us and listen to the videos, and we are on Instagram and Facebook at Minds in Motion. In order to help others, subscribe to the Minds in Motion YouTube channel. And if this video impacts you, send it to others because I truly care about your success. So I would love to also hear your comments and thoughts. Today's guest is Sam Bosco, who is a two-time Paralympic Bronze Medalist. And in 2017, she won a world championship, and she is currently training for the Tokyo Paralympic Games. Sam acquired a disability early in life, and she has learned to work with it and thrive with it to this day. And she's going to give us tips on how she does that. She's going to tell us the story of what happened to her, and she's going to talk about what her training is like. Sam also discusses embracing our flaws and believing in what makes us unique. She is also going to talk about self-care and motivation tips that go along with mind over matter thinking. They also explore ways to not beat yourself up if things don't go as planned. He is going to give us the most extraordinary tips. So let's go meet Sam. Hi, Sam.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
You're the epitome of what Minds in Motion is. So I'm so glad you're on here. You are a two-time Paralympian bronze medalist.
Yep.
Which is insane. Okay. And then 2017, you won a world championship.
Yes. Which is on the track in the 3K. Yeah.
Wow. You're untouchable. And so I'm just curious because I know you preach motivation and mind over matter skills. And so I'm curious if you have tips for that for others.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't even expect that at any point in my life.
And so what did that feel like for you to win?
It's interesting to me because I feel like it's the ultimate goal for cycling is to win a world championship, I guess for any sport really, but I did it on the track, which when I started my paracycling career, I didn't think that I would even ever medal on a track event. It shows my disability even more than road events. So I never had it in my mind that I could win a gold medal, a world championship until the finals. And it became a really almost a done deal in my mind. So for me, it was just all the emotions of just the struggles that I've gone through, the adversity, the encouragement I've had, the motivation from others, just all accumulated into that win. And so it was something that I'll cherish forever.
I'm cherishing it for you. I am amazed and in awe, and it sounds like you had the right people around you and motivation by your side and within yourself. And I'm curious too, because you preach mind over matter types of themes and motivations. I'm curious because you have to have some certain amount of mind over matter skills to do what you did. So I'm curious if you can give others those tips.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's hard for me sometimes to really put into words the tips and the motivation that I have, because I feel like I was born with some degree of self-motivation that was just nurtured throughout my life, whether it's from my parents or my husband or random people that have met me that tell me that my story is inspiring and gives me motivation on days when I don't feel like getting up and going for a ride super early or if it's raining.
Absolutely. And I know there's a lot of people, including myself, who can relate to that. Not wanting to get up, not wanting to do it. And I'm sure after you do it, you feel better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wouldn't you say like, oh, I don't regret that I did that, maybe?
Right. Yeah. So for me, I've gotten really good at self-motivating as of the last few years, I guess, because I always give myself time. So if I'm not super motivated, I'll at least start a ride. And if I get to the 15-minute mark or 20-minute mark, whatever mark that I set for myself, and I'm still not motivated, then the ride plan changes, or I go home and have a rest day because I'm fatigued enough that I'm not enjoying myself. It's just going to make the whole rest of it miserable. But I love cycling so much that I know personally when I get on the bike at 15 minutes in, I'm like, yeah, let's go. I'm ready. Let's do this. And I get all excited. And then I come home and like, yeah, I'm really glad I did that. Like, I'm so happy right now.
That is such an admirable energy. And there was something really important that I noticed that you said was being being in tune with yourself and noticing, okay, I'm not all there today. So this isn't going to be beneficial for me if I keep going. And noticing that that's okay. Doesn't mean you're a failure. That's okay. Go back, have a rest day. Because if you were to keep going, the result in injuries because you're not all there, mind, body, or your muscles are fatigued and it's just not working, and that's okay. And then you can just go about it the next day.
Yeah, absolutely. I used to be a big time perfectionist, which I've learned stems from a number of things. But I used to feel guilty if I took a rest day or didn't do the workout that was prescribed. And I would beat myself into the ground and have injury that stopped me from being able to ride for weeks at a time. And notice that the recovery is just as important, if not more important than the workouts, because you have to give your body time to let it sink in and then expand. It's kind of like a spring coil when you push it down and it just explodes forward, and then you push it back down and it keeps going. Like, it doesn't just keep going forward. You have to go back a little bit. And so for me, I think the recovery process is the spring loading back, getting ready to go forward. So I definitely have been utilizing that more and more. Plus, my husband gives me a hard time when I don't take a recovery day or do my stretching and foam rolling and stuff like that. I don't want him to get mad at me for not doing it.
No, that's an awesome husband. That's a great person to be around 24/7. And I'm sure with a lot of people, it's hard. I've heard this a lot where it's like, oh, you feel guilty because we're so used to work, that when we're not doing it, it's like, oh, what are we doing? Who am I? I'm not doing anything. I'm not being productive. But that is the most needed thing, self-care. And it sounds like that's really helped you to prevent injuries and to prevent mental health injuries too.
Yeah, absolutely. I've definitely have done a lot of work the last few years, especially last year when we didn't really have racing going on because everything got canceled and I wasn't doing the group rides or training with, I have a small group of people that I train with. So I wasn't doing a whole bunch of stuff and it kind of paused and I got to ride my bike for fun. I got to be a tourist. I rode 100 miles to go to the Hollywood sign just to take a photo. Little did I know that you only get to the back of the Hollywood sign if you go all the way to the top, which was very disappointing for me. Yeah. So the self-care just really kind of took off even more. I think I had a little bit of struggle at the beginning of 2020 before the pandemic happened that really had me sit back and evaluate what I wanted in life and who I was and not letting other people determine that for me. And I think that opened the door to really kind of listening to my body and doing what I needed to do for myself to be happy, whether that was going for a 100-mile ride on the weekend with two of my friends or sitting at home reading a book all day and not doing anything else.
I love this mind-body connection you have going on, Sam. It's very advanced. It's so strong and it's so needed. It's such a great lesson for all of humanity.
Thank you. Thank
you. Yes. And it's so, speaking of that, being true, being listening to your body and being true to yourself, I know you preach embracing flaws and finding that your uniqueness is special. So I'm curious what you have to say about that.
I struggled because I was born with a bowed tibia. So the bone right above my right leg was curved. And when I was 4, that part of my bone was surgically removed. And so my legs were pretty normal. I didn't necessarily notice a difference despite the leg length difference. I ran 5Ks with my family. I raced mountain bikes, was really, really active. And then at 11, I had a limb lengthening surgery so that I wouldn't grow up with problems later on. And that surgery didn't go quite as planned. Ended up spending 3 years on crutches, had a dozen surgeries, have permanent damage from it now. And I struggled when I got off crutches at 14. It's not the best time to be dealing with this kind of stuff anyways, because you're already dealing with growing up and all the kind of things that teenagers deal with. And I had a leg that didn't look normal and it was a struggle. I found myself wearing pants in summertime because I didn't want people to see my leg, or trying to be perfect with everything else because my leg wasn't perfect. So for me, I think I ran from it a little bit. I tried to be an overachiever so that I could feel better about what had happened, because I would have days where I'm like, why me? Why did this happen to me? And that's not to say I don't have days now and then that happens, but I've definitely come to the point in my life where, yes, this happens, but it doesn't have to define me, and I can be whatever I put my mind to. And I started seeing the strength that I have despite the permanent damage, where it's taken me. I've gotten the amazing opportunity to travel the world to race my bike, which was my dream at 9 years old. And I'm fulfilling it. It might not be the way I had envisioned it, but it's still happening. And the people that I've met and the things I've gotten to do because of it shows me that I'm living life greater than I ever would have had it not happened to me. And I think that I'm even more appreciative of that because of the adversity that I've gone through. So when I see my legs now in a photo, I don't think, wow, my leg doesn't look normal, or my leg doesn't look like everybody else, or I wish I could run. I think of the strength that it's had despite what it's been through, that it's still there, that it's still pushing, that I can win a medal with it and travel the world and race my bike. So I think that it wasn't until I really honed in on the positives that I started to see the beauty in all of it.
Wow, the story, Sam. That is tremendous strength, and there is tremendous strength in that leg. I would be proud. I would be so proud every time I saw it in a picture. I'd be like, yes, like you're doing it. And but it's important too. It's really nice to hear that you allowed yourself to feel, and you allowed yourself to feel sad and have bad days and not like it. And it sounds like it was such a journey of self-discovery for you, which happens to all of us, but in different ways, you know, with different situations. And yes, it's really nice to hear that, Sam. And too, with the mind over matter, like you really did hold true to that. Like, okay, my ears can hear me. So if I'm telling myself, you suck, you don't look normal, you can't do this, then your brain and your ears, because they hear you, your brain's going to go, okay, you're not going to do it.
Right.
But if we tell ourselves the opposite, reframe those negative thoughts into positive ones that are still the truth, Like,
Right.
hey, okay, this isn't the way I wanted, but I can still do this. And it
Yeah,
teaches your
absolutely.
brain, okay, she's doing it.
Yeah. I've even had, it's funny because I've even had times when I couldn't get past the negative self-talk. So instead of just trying to reframe things, I would go so far as having to do something to change it. So I made myself do push-ups or do some sort of challenge every time I started negative self-talk. So not only was I getting mentally stronger, I was getting physically stronger too.
That is awesome. I love that. Yes. And there's a study by Kristen Ness who invented the self-compassion scale. And what they did was have participants have a bracelet, and every time they were unkind to themselves, they would put the bracelet on the other hand. And just something, push-ups, bracelets, whatever it is, something that makes you notice, hey,
Yeah.
I'm being cruel to myself.
Right.
Let's change that. And it seems like it worked tremendously for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. And what is normal? Like when you
Right.
said, I can't wait for the day, if it'll ever come when I'm alive, for the day when society just accepts everything and anyone, and there's no double take looks. And it's just so what? Who cares if I have a weird this or that, or who cares if this person is this? And it's just, what is normal anyway? I mean,
I agree. And I hope that I'm still alive for that day. I hope that it happens in my lifetime.
throw the biggest party ever.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. And okay, so also, Sam, speaking of, this story really changed your life, and it wasn't really something that you could say you expected, because it's like, well, you could have had it a different way when you were racing and stuff. And so I'm curious if you have tips on how to deal with things when they don't go as planned, because things like that happen every day.
Oh,
Even if
yeah.
it's the littlest, tiniest thing. Every day,
Yes.
things are out of our control.
Oh, man. There's so many. I think for me, the two biggest would be being flexible, allowing yourself to be flexible. I think I've learned that in my paracycling career, the flexibility is probably the biggest thing that can help ease that not going to plan type feeling. There's a lot of times when we'll get to a country and the cars aren't ready, or the hotel's not ready, or something's out of our control that isn't according to the time by time plan for the day. And I would notice other people getting really anxious about it not going as planned. And it's kind of just a wasted emotion, I feel like. So I always tried my best to just be more flexible, because yeah, it's not going to plan, but we don't know if going to plan would have been as good as not going to plan. Like, my going to plan for my life dream was to be a professional mountain bike racer and travel the world. But I don't know that the unexpectedness of my life didn't make it better, because I've gotten a more scenic journey that has brought more beauty into my life. So for me, the flexibility only allows opportunity for things to come in and better things to possibly be put in our path than what we thought we needed or what we thought we were going to get. And then I think the second biggest one that I've learned is to ask for help. Ask for help a little bit sooner than you think, even. Because I learned it the hard way. I had help pushed on me, actually. When I started cycling again, I didn't have a bike fit. And so a bike fit is essentially, the analogy I use is shoes. So a bike fit would be the correct pair of shoes versus a pair of shoes that's too big that your feet are kind of swimming around in, or a pair of shoes that's too small that you're kind of just shoving your foot in like Cinderella's stepsisters. A bike fit, a bike fit moves your seat to the proper height, your handlebars, all the components of the bike so that the bike fits you. And I didn't have that. I just kind of went with general knowledge. And then I met my husband, Andrew, and he's also a cyclist, and he's been fit throughout his whole career. So he kind of pushed a bike fit on me because I was dealing with all kinds of knee pain, joint pain, just because I just thought that was normal. And I got a bike fit and the knee pain kind of dissipated, and realized like I could have been in less pain had I asked sooner. But now like I can see the benefit of asking for help, because so many people know so much and they just don't have the opportunity to share it. Mm-hmm. And we can learn faster from other people. We can learn something that somebody else knows instead of trying to figure it out and going through it 5 or 6 times before we finally get it right. Someone else has been there, but I'll speak for myself. I'm too stubborn to ask half the time.
Yes. And I guarantee you there's a lot of people who are snapping and clapping hearing you say that right now, because that's very true. And exactly. Okay. So flexibility and asking for help. And it seems like with the flexibility, you kind of allowed yourself to be comfortable with the unknown. And that's going to happen over time. You're not going to wake up and be a magic genie and like, I'm comfortable with all of my anxieties. But it kind of happened over time, and you became comfortable with the unknown and being flexible, open to change, because we don't know what if better comes your way. And if you weren't open or flexible, you would never experience that. Right. I mean, more knowledge, the merrier.
Right.
And with the asking for help, it's not going to hurt. It's never going to hurt. So if it's only going to help us, we can choose to not take it. I mean, if we're stubborn, we can baby steps, but realizing that it doesn't hurt us.
Yeah.
So Sam, lastly, I wanted to ask, I'm so curious what you do now to train.
I have 2 people that I train with primarily on the road, a handful of people, but my husband and our friend that actually lives like 2 blocks from us are my go-to training buddies right now. The 3 of us have a good camaraderie, and we go for rides, and they both push me when I should be pushed, and I push them back. So it's like a good give and take of training. And I'm gearing up towards the Paralympic trials. So a lot of the training that I'm doing is interval based and on my time trial bike, which oddly enough, when I first started cycling, I thought was a way to lay down and like chill for a ride, but have since learned that it's not the case. It's even harder.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And because for paracycling, we do both road and track. With the games coming up, we're doing some track camps coming up pretty soon. So I'll be doing some double sessions, 2 sessions a day on the track, intermixed with the stuff on the road. So a lot of time on my bike, a lot of time with physical therapists, doing preventative stuff, additional strength training, and a lot of recovery.
Nice. I love physical therapists. Cheers to the physical therapists. Yes. And nice. You're really taking care of your body. You're a great role model for that. And too, you sound like you have a fun dynamic going on with your peers that you ride with, but pushing each other back. Well, thank you so much, Sam. This was amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me and letting me share some of my story and some of the tips I have for motivation.
Oh, I love it. I'm so excited for people to see this.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I'm wishing you the best of luck with your training, sending you healthy vibes.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.